Hello and welcome. I am Exit Light, and this is my podcast. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the folklore of the sea, the deepest, darkest, scariest parts. And my guest host is Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hey, hey guys.
Whoa, you're loud, Rob. You're loud.
Hello. Okay, I'll tone it down.
You just blew my ears off.
I think that must be. Go on. It might be a problem your end, because I'm not doing anything different.
I don't know what that was. Hey everybody who's already in the chat. Nice to see you. Okay. So before we get started, let's do this. I hope you guys enjoyed the 31 days of Halloween. Rob and I kind of wanted to hit the high points and tell everybody that we really appreciated everybody showing up and leaving your comments, and hopefully you had a good time, because we had a good time. And so what did you think of it, Rob?
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very, very ambitious to try and do it, and I think you did it. You actually did it. No one else can say that they've done anything like that, and I thought it was amazing. Everything was interesting. Everything was fresh and new. You amazed me.
Oh, Rob. All right. He's in the running for my favorite guest host now. I had a great time. I had fun putting the stuff together and trying to figure out what to do. I had a great time reading the stories from the first horror writers like Edgar Allan Poe, and that was my favorite. My favorite ended up being The Telltale Heart. That ended up being my favorite part of the 31 Days of Halloween, which is ironic because it was the last video I did, and it was for Halloween Day. But I loved it. I loved reading those old stories and creating new ones, and it was nice. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but I felt like it was worth it. So I hope you guys liked it.
And it's out there now in the world for everyone to listen to over and over again.
Yeah. That's right. So there you go. I want to start off by saying that producer Jim has started a business. And if you are not watching the podcast, but you're listening to the podcast, take some time out sometime to watch the podcast, because he does a lot of work in that you can see if you watch it. He does all the photos for me. All we do is send them, and he does all the rest. And he designs everything, and everything you see on the screen is his work. I do think I drew the exit light thing, so don't look at that and blame him for it. So if you guys need a graphic or a logo made for yourself or your business, or you need production help for your stream, Jeremy is willing to do that. And he also makes songs. I have a song on my channel that I use for introductions occasionally, and he is capable of making songs for you for whatever you need. And all I did was tell him that I wanted it to sound like a cross between this song, and that song, and he made it for me, and it was really great. His company is called ZG Logo and Design, and if you are interested, go ahead and contact me, leave a message, whatever you need to do, and we have a price sheet. I'll say really fast that you can also email him at zglogoanddesign@gmail.com, or you can text at 940-432-0929. And he's on Facebook at ZG Logo WF. And I can't recommend it enough. He does so much work, behind the scenes work, you guys. And so show him a little love if you guys want something to for your stream, or if you want to start a podcast or whatever. Okay. Victor Lyon says, I definitely need a graphic designer. So, Victor, get in touch with those emails and numbers I just gave you, or me personally, and I'll give them to you again. Alrighty. Is there anything else we usually start off with that I have I know there's stuff I have forgotten, but
What about your merchandise?
oh yeah. And if you guys want to go to my Teespring shop, Maya will put the link there. And if you feel the deepest, darkest parts of your heart that you'd like to support my work, then please consider doing so through there or Patreon, and that link will go up too. And that is enough self-promotion of my part, but do consider Jeremy if you guys need something. All right, Rob.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about the sea?
You certainly are.
You know, I'm afraid of the ocean.
Yeah, I am as well, a little bit, especially if I'm out of my depth.
Yeah, I don't like it that there are things beneath my feet that can see me and I can't see them. We're not highest in the food chain in the sea.
No.
I don't enjoy that. So let's get to talking about stuff that scares the crap out of me. And by the way, there's moderator Maya is moderating tonight, so everybody be nice to Maya. Do you want to start, or do you want? Be nice to Rob too, you guys. You guys are always so mean to Rob. All right, maybe not. Maybe it's just me. I have a new phrase to say to you. Now I can't. Now I don't want to say it out loud because I haven't practiced it, Rob.
Oh, okay.
But I'm working on my accent for you.
Okay. You need a lot of work.
Yeah, I know. I have a new phrase. So now when I talk to Rob, because Rob and I talk every day, almost every day, don't you think, Rob?
Pretty much, yeah.
When he answers, I say, "Hello, love," and he ignores me. So.
Don't ignore you.
Well, you pretty much do. All right. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about the Kraken.
Okay.
All right, guys. What is the Kraken? Well, the Kraken is a legendary cephalopod-like sea monster of giant size that is said to dwell off the coast of Norway and Greenland. Authors over the years have postulated that the legend originated from the sightings of giant squids that may have been 40 to 50 feet in length. Well, let's just call them the Kraken then. I say, that's terrifying. Have you guys seen a squid? That's terrifying. The sheer size and fearsome appearance attributed to the Kraken have made it a common ocean-dwelling monster in various fictional works such as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Pirates of the Caribbean. And in the Clash of the Titans, Zeus, who is king of the gods, barks the order, "Release the Kraken." The term is becoming a cult-like catchphrase. Don't they also say "Release the Kraken" in the Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, I
okay.
think so.
I think so too. The monstrous Kraken is described as round, flat, and full of arms. About a century later, from the original sightings of the Kraken, It finally came with a zoological name, which is the, I don't know, Architeuthis? Architeuthis? I don't know. Giant squid. So the kraken is the chupacabra of the sea. Yet a 50-foot squid is a monster, in my opinion. Since the 18th century, the kraken have been depicted in a number of ways, primarily like a large octopus kind of a creature, but has often also been described as something like a crab. Originally, it was described as more crab-like. And it also possessed traits that are associated with whales rather than squids. And some of the traits of the kraken resemble undersea volcanic activity. So when they were talking about seeing the kraken, they were in Iceland mostly, and they saw bubbles of water suddenly coming up underneath them, and the currents became very dangerous. And so they thought the kraken was lifting their boat up when it was probably the activity of a volcano. So that's depressing.
Well, they have found giant squids, haven't they?
Oh yeah, they have.
And they have found, or they have seen on blue, especially blue whales. There the tentacles go, and they've left scars. Some of these, when they work out the size of the squid to the size of the marks on the whale, they do believe that there are some really, really big ones down there still that haven't been seen.
Yeah. Well, I think that probably what was wrecking the ships was probably the volcanic activity they saw. And that was probably what would knock a ship off. And then you add that to the fact that they were seeing 50-foot squid at the same time.
Yeah.
No. That would be no. That would be a no for me. A hard no. I'm going to pass on it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what we think of as the huge teeth grabbing hold of the ship and cracking, splitting it in half, cracking it.
I never heard anything about it being like a crab or being like a whale.
I haven't either.
Because I did a little bit of research just in the fact for the picture. I did some research and looking for the right picture to sort of mix 2 or 3 pictures together.
Right.
And I didn't come up with anything that looked like a crab or a whale or anything like that.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen that either. I mean, I could get where they could say large octopus-ish because the squids have the big, the arms. But I never heard anything about a large crab or a whale. A whale is weird. That was a weird one. That was one I thought, well, I don't know about that. But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I love that movie. And I just want there to be a kraken. I just want there to be one. I wanted there to be a chupacabra too, but no. But 50-foot squid, kind of the kraken. I'll take it.
Well, I think that there could be. I mean, the deepest part of the ocean is about, 6.8 miles deep. Miles down to the bottom.
Wait, that's it?
What?
It's only 6 miles deep?
Nearly 7 miles deep to the deepest part.
The deepest part of the ocean?
Yeah, the Mariana Trench.
Oh, I thought it was deeper than that.
36,200 feet. Approximately. Wow. That's approximately. But there is a chain of thought that the bottom isn't the bottom. Basically, it's just you can't see through the bottom. It's dust and acid and all sorts of crap that's down the bottom. There is another bottom. It goes deeper and deeper than that. that is just folklore, whether that's true or not. But the point of what I'm saying is they don't know. Only 6% of our oceans have been explored.
I know, that's why I don't like it. We know more about space probably, than the ocean. But that's because of the pressure. It's hard. You can't go down there. So, I mean, the fact that there's a huge fish with ginormous teeth that has a light bulb at the end of his fishing rod to attract other fish, that alone is enough for me to be like, no, thank you. And so in the chat, they're talking about that squid tastes good. Well, a 50-foot squid is going to feed a lot of people.
Ooh.
I've never had squid. I've never had it. Just the idea of it, I just, no.
Do you know, you just mentioned the pressure of going down to the deepest parts. If they took away the money they looked at the money that goes towards the space exploration and things like that, and they concentrated on the oceans, and there was funding there to design stuff that can go that deep. I think they should do that. We need to look at our oceans more than looking at the sky, in my opinion. There's too many things that are down there that we just don't know about. We're just wasting money trying to look at Mars and get to Mars.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, we're already here, so why shouldn't we look at our oceans? On the other hand, humans couldn't do it. You'd have to send machines down, right? Because humans can only go so deep, and even then, you have to like come up super slow. And am I right about this? Anybody?
Yeah, you are right. That's why I'm saying we need to, instead of trying to build spacecraft, we need to start building things that can go. We have the scientists who could solve the problems of the pressure and of the coming up more slowly, and you get the bends.
Yes, the bends.
I just think we need to concentrate on, like you just said, we're here already. We don't have to go anywhere.
We don't even have to go anywhere.
We're here. It's there. Yeah. I mean, how can only 6%?
And the Earth is mostly water.
Yeah, exactly.
You know why, Rob? Because there's 50-foot squid down there.
Okay.
Ain't nobody got time for that. It's too scary.
Squids are, well, is it a squid? Do you think a kraken is a squid, or do you think it's an octopus?
Probably a squid, right? Octopus are freaking smart.
Yeah, they are very clever.
Have you seen the video on YouTube with the octopus who's holding two ginormous shells? So he's got two arms holding a shell on the left side, two arms holding a shell on the right side. He's walking with the rest of his arms. Freaking walking. Like a human, alien. He goes to some spot. He puts the shell down. He crawls inside of it. He takes the other shell and he puts it over him, and he's got a house. What? Like, I don't want that kind of an intelligence underneath me when I'm on a cruise. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, you've been on cruises, haven't you?
Yeah, it's time to nuke it.
You do spend all your time in the cabin, scared to death.
No, actually, you don't think about the fact, oddly enough, you don't think about the fact that you're on water, which sounds weird.
It does.
It's your vision goes a certain amount of, a certain distance, and that's what is you're seeing. And, like, I don't know how to explain it. You do know you're on the water, but unless your husband takes you up to the darkest part of the ship and shows you how black the ocean is at night, which I don't recommend, then it's not scary. But octopus are freaking smart. And what did they say? Diabolical Witness says, each arm has a brain. Each arm of an octopus has a what?
Yeah, yeah.
They're so smart. Intelligent animals shouldn't be smart.
Intelligent animals shouldn't be smart.
There shouldn't be intelligent animals. First off, because that's sad. And secondly, it's scary when an octopus is intelligent enough to build his own house. He looked like an alien. Maybe they are. I mean, I've said it 100 times. If I had been the first human on this planet, we'd still be trying to chase lightning down for fire. And a freaking octopus can build his own house.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it was only a shell. He didn't exactly he didn't put footings in and build it by brick, and then put central heating in and put windows in and a roof. It was 2 shells, but we have to get this in perspective somehow. I mean, your husband.
He's got to start somewhere.
Your husband is in construction. Ask him if he would. I bet he won't employ an octopus.
Probably not, but you have to admit that's smart.
It is clever.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. He's not got like a city and guilds.
Diabolical Witnesses. See, I always say that. Diabolical Witness says they can unlock lobster cages and get to the booty. I'm assuming he means lobsters.
Yeah, I thought we'd talk about Kim Kardashian for a minute.
No,
what's she doing in a lobster cage? She's still with us.
Oh my God. Okay, why don't you tell us about something scary?
Pardon?
Why don't you tell us about something scary that isn't Kim Kardashian?
Okay. Get a drink. I'm going to talk about mermaids.
Okay. Are mermaids scary?
These ones are.
Oh, good.
Excuse me. Okay, in folklore, a mermaid is an aquatic creature with the top half of a human, but with webbed fingers, and the bottom half of a fish. Now, I'm not talking about like the Disney mermaids. Pardon? The folklore. What? There was a really weird noise then. I don't know what it was.
Oh, I moved my microphone. That was probably me.
Yeah, we're not talking like Disney mermaids here. The folklore creatures were ugly and vicious, dragging sailors and ships to their doom. The mermaid's song was said to be mesmerizing and hypnotic, drawing the ships onto the rocks and sinking them.
So that they're sirens.
Yeah. Right, this is it gets a little bit technical here, but I apologize. The origin.
I probably won't be able to understand it then.
Get your octopus to explain it.
It's going to be one of those nights.
Okie dokie. The origins. Now, there are a few different stories of how mermaids came to be, but I've chosen this tale as it incorporates our evolution. Our ancestors were living in a changing world. The Earth was relatively young, a young planet. Volcanic eruptions seemed to have changed the landscape almost daily, which drove our ancestors to the coastline and relative safety. Why the coastline, I hear you say? Well, in most cases, it was the furthest place away from the volcanoes, and there was an endless supply of food. Obviously, because they're by the sea, they they could forage for food along the coast, or they could go and try and catch fish.
Right. By the way, did you want
Yeah.
to do your opening right now? Action.
Well, I'll do this, and then we can do that if you want.
Okay.
Right, as time passed, some of our ancestors were spending more and more time in the oceans and seas until they were basically living in the coastal waters. Right, here goes. This is the bit that's a bit technical. There are some chains of thought that believe our ancestors' diet was pretty much fish and seafood based. The knock on effect being it aided their higher brain function. So eventually they went deeper, further into the oceans, and eventually turning into the mermaids that we love today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I personally, I do believe in mermaids, but the problem is there are so many fake videos. It's like Bigfoot, the Bigfoot phenomenon. But this is a question for you. All this false and fake information that we're getting on the fake videos and everything like that, could this information be being put out there on purpose so people get confused and don't know whether it's true and they don't know what is fake? They're putting out video. There's so many videos on YouTube of mermaids, and it's just like the big. It's taken over from Bigfoot really, because there were so many fake videos and fake documentaries about Bigfoot. Now they did the same thing as is happening with mermaids. I think there is something out there in the seas, and I think that maybe it's not what we expect it to be. Because Disney balls that up, didn't they, with the Little Mermaid?
Okay, so you believe in mermaids,
I believe in something,
but not
I
the
believe
not the mystical, violent kind.
I believe that when we're talking about evolution, I believe that one part of our one they could have gone into the sea. There is no reason why they couldn't. I mean,
Well, lungs.
pardon?
Lungs.
Yeah, but that's why I'm talking about evolution. I don't mean that just one day they develop lungs, develop gills, and that was it. It would happen over
Oh, I
time.
see. I see. Okay.
It would be the natural progression would have been to go in further and further into the sea, and that would happen over generation after generation after generation.
Right. Right. I see.
And then the other chain of our ancestors stayed on land and became what we are today. That's my thinking on that.
So let me ask you some stuff about mermaids.
Yes.
Rob says no. Diabolical Witness says we breathe liquid for 9 months before birth.
Yeah. I forgot to mention. Yeah.
So is the folklore of mermaids, has it been passed down from generation to generation to generation? Are there sightings of mermaids? Did sailors see these mermaids and then pass down the stories? How is the folklore of the mermaid started?
Well, they've let me. I'm going to do my introduction because I think it's going to explain what you mean, exactly what you mean.
Okay.
I've talked about the deepest part of the ocean, which is called Challenger Deep. JD will know about that, the Mariana Trench. And I've talked about there's only 5 or 6% of being explored.
I've seen the Mariana Trench.
Have you?
Yeah, in a submarine.
Oh, yeah, I think we talked about it, didn't we?
Yeah, on a vacation. Maya has too.
Wow, I'm very, very jealous.
Well, I'll take you
Okay,
next time.
okay. But as humans, we tend to make up what we don't understand, and our minds will fill in the blanks. So we end up with stories and folklore being passed down from father to son or daughter, and it can end up like a very, very long game of Chinese whispers. So over the generations, the stories get so distorted and different from the original, we don't know what to believe. So what could possibly be living down in the depths of our lakes, our seas, and our oceans? There
Right.
in the freezing dark water where the sun never shines, sea monsters, prehistoric creatures, thought to be long dead, lost worlds, or even extraterrestrial bases. So your question about the folklore, from when man first built ships and started to go and sail the oceans, there was stories and being brought back that they'd seen these creatures in the water, um, and creatures on the rocks dragging in. I mean, I don't know how um, just a minute. I don't know how far back you have to go for the siren and the stories of that and ships being wrecked. But at the end of the day, like you were talking about with the volcanoes, and the people were mistaking volcanoes for the Kraken. You know, can you imagine being living in that time, and you were the first person to sail at any distance across the ocean? How new everything would be to you, and how different when you'd never ever done, or no one else had done it. You were the first. You're going to bring back stories of all sorts, aren't you?
Right.
Our oceans would have been different. There would have been different creatures in the fish, whatever was living in our oceans would have been different than what is living in our oceans today. That's where the folklore started for me. It was just the fact that everything was new. People didn't understand,
Right.
and they saw things that they couldn't understand, and these stories got passed down from generation to generation, and you know, then Disney came along and ballsed everything up.
Right. Right. Well, because the original story of Little Mermaid was very violent,
Yeah,
and then Disney changed it
yeah. But we talked
because
about that,
she was
didn't
gonna get her. Yeah, she was gonna get her fins cut off or something. Remember?
we? Excuse me, I was just getting a drink. But your mic keeps cutting out, by the way.
It does.
Yeah,
How do you know
that's why
this?
that's why I keep pausing, because I don't know whether you're talking or not. Your mic keeps cutting out on you.
Like when I'm talking, it cuts out.
Yeah, didn't then, but it does, because sometimes you'll be halfway through a sentence and then it'll just stop, and I think, well, are you waiting for me to talk, or and you're still talking, but I can't hear you. I don't know if the people in the chat can hear you. Okay, but unless it's me that's cutting out, I don't know. But,
Jeremy, is something going on with me? Okay.
cheers, mate.
Yeah, a diabolical witness says that I remember when giant squid were considered fairy tales until about 20 years ago. I remember that too, and I lived in Washington, and they found one um, in Seattle under well, there's a I don't know what to call it. Help me, Jay. Texas to me. Where they, where Ivers is, JD. What's that called? Sorry, I'm talking to my husband. He's out there somewhere listening. Anyway, they found one over there in by Seattle, and then they started finding more of them. And I remember watching a documentary about how they thought they were there, but they didn't know for sure. And then they found one, and then they got some more videos of other ones. So yeah, I remember that too, Ryan. Um, so you know, I don't want to run into a mermaid either.
Well, they're
Oh,
not very. They're very vicious looking. They are.
yeah. Yes, the wharf. Thank you, JD.
What
The
do you
wharf.
think about? What do you think about the evolution side? Did you get the bit about the seafood and the higher brain function
Right.
and all that?
Yeah,
Because they
because the
believe,
omega fatty acids.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but
Yeah.
I was worried that it didn't come across as I meant it to come across.
No, yeah,
But
that would make sense because, seafood is well, the omega fatty acids are good for your brain. So, and it would make sense that they would be through hundreds of thousands of years, obviously be able to hold their breath for longer than most people can. They have those divers that dive down.
free divers, yeah,
Yeah, which is incredible. So imagine this is what's been passed down for generations, and maybe you do, maybe you could, because like Brian says, we did
free,
breathe
yeah,
fluid, and in the movie The Abyss,
the abyss, yeah,
that's what that reminds me of, right?
yeah,
She breathes that fluid.
yeah.
So, or he does. It might have been him who breathed the fluid. It was him.
Yeah.
Um,
They put the rat in, didn't they?
yeah.
Put
Yes,
the
that's
rat in
right.
first,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right. And it was Richard Dreyfuss who was breathing the fluid. By the way, if you guys are here and you have not clicked thumbs up, please do so because that will help get this video to be seen. Okay, should we talk about something else?
yeah. It's your turn,
Scary.
Bob.
All right, I'm going to talk about Davy Jones' locker. Do you know what that is?
Um, I've heard of it. It was the Pirates of the Caribbean. They,
Right.
but I don't actually. It's in it. Is it treasure? Is it treasure?
No,
I don't know what it is. Then.
it's see. The bottom of the sea is referred to as Davy Jones' locker. Um, it's the state of death among drowned sailors and shipwrecks. It's used as a euphemism for drowning or when the shipwreck goes down and people go down with it. They are consigned to the bottom of the sea or being sent. I'm going to choke. Hold on, sorry. To Davy Jones' locker. I need you to talk for a second so I can get something to drink. Okay.
Yeah. So Davy Jones' locker is supposedly the bottom of the sea. I'd never heard that before. I tell you, Tracy's husband JD goes scuba diving, and I would be really interested to hear what he thinks about um, the mermaid stories and the stuff we're doing tonight. What he thinks as a scuba diver. Does he would he be worried about going into the sea and being out of his depth after listening to this podcast? Probably not, but um,
Well, he probably wouldn't mind running into a mermaid. A giant squid, on the other hand. Okay, I'm alive now. I'm not going to choke. Washington Irving mentions Jones's name in his Adventures of the Black Fisherman. He came, he said, in a storm, and he went in a storm, and he came in the night, and he went in the night, and he came nobody knows whence, and he is gone nobody knows where. For aught I know, he is gone to sea once more on his chest, and may land to bother some people on the other side of the world, though it is 1,000 pities, added he, if he is gone to Davy Jones' locker. That Edgar Allan Poe wrote about him too, which I love, in Edgar Allan Poe's King Pest. And Davy Jones is referred to dismissively by the anti-hero when King Pest refers to that unearthly sovereign whose name is Death, whose name is Davy Jones. Herman Melville mentions him in mentions Davy Jones' locker in Moby Dick. And it does this. There was young Nat Swain, once the bravest boat header out of all Nantucket and the Vineyard. He joined the meeting and he never came to good. He got so frightened about his plague-eye soul that he shrinked and sheered away from the whales for fear of afterclaps in case he got stove and went to Davy Jones. Charles Dickinson wrote about Davy Jones' locker.
Charles Dickens, don't you mean?
What did I say?
Dickinson.
Oh, sorry, Charles Dickens. I did that last time we talked about Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens wrote about him in the story The Bleak House. The character Mr. Badger quotes her former husband's worth ethic. What am I doing? Did I ever say that right? No. What's wrong with me? Work ethic. Portraying Davy Jones in a formidable light. It was a maximum of Captain Swosser's, said Mrs. Badger, speaking in his figurative naval manner, that when you make pitch hot, you cannot make it too hot, and that if you only have to swab a plank, you should swab it as if Davy Jones were after you. And Robert Louis Stevenson wrote about it in Treasure Island. Davy Jones appears 3 times, for example, in the phrase, "in the name of Davy Jones." So I think that's pretty cool. World War II posters made reference to Davy Jones' locker, calling it a lubber. And they would say if you were clumsy or careless, that you would meet Davy Jones. And they also would call people who didn't sail a landlubber. Duh. There's also a play which has Peter and Wendy and Captain Hook, where they sing a song that says, "Yo ho ho, the pirate's life for me." Anybody who's ever been to Disneyland or Disney World knows this. The flag of skulls and bones, a merry hour, a hempen rope, and hay for Davy Jones. The U.S. Navy has a song, "Anchors Away," and it refers to Davy Jones, which is strange. It says, "Roll out the TNT, anchors away, sail on to victory, and sink their bones to Davy Jones. Hooray." Isn't that strange?
It is a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Paul McCartney had a song called "Morse, Moose, and the Grey Goose." The Beastie Boys had a song called "Rhymin' and Stealing," and they mentioned Davy Jones in those songs. There's a song by Genesis called "Dodo Lurker" from a 1981 album, Abacab. The 6th stanza has the lyrics, "One he got a dream of love, deep as the ocean where he goes. What does he do? Will the siren team with Davy Jones and trap him at the bottom of the sea?" So that has your mermaid and the Davy Jones locker. There's an Iron Maiden song called "Run Silent, Run Deep." It's about submarine warfare, and it contains the lines, "The lifeboat shattered, the hull is torn, the tar black smell of burning oil. On the way down to Davy Jones, every man for himself, you're on your own." The band Clutch has a song called "Big News," which says, "When played backwards, them bones, them dry, dry bones, come down to the locker of Davy Jones." That. There's a Tears for Fear song. It's called "Don't Drink the Water." It's from the 1985 album. And "The Kings of Spain" contains the line, "I saw you swim, sink to your grave, down to Davy Jones' locker, under the waves." There's a Aesop's fable called "The Haunted Ship," and Davy Jones' locker is mentioned in that. So he's also portrayed as a living skeleton wearing a pirate's hat. "Sleeping with Sirens," this is for you, Maya, refers to Davy Jones on their song "Don't Fall Asleep at the Helm." The concept of Davy Jones was then used in The Legend of the Flying Dutchman, and in the Pirates of the Caribbean film series, in which Davy Jones' locker is portrayed as a purgatory place of punishment for those who have crossed Davy Jones, and he's the guy with the octopus face. Jones is portrayed as a captain assigned to ferry those drowned at sea to the afterlife before he corrupted his purpose out of anger at his betrayal by his lover, the sea goddess Calypso. I, Calypso. You know that song? Davy Jones is portrayed in the movie as an enigma of the sea, featuring octopus arms for a beard and crab claws for a hand.
Sounds quite fun.
I'm working on that too.
So I don't really know where to start with that.
Well, we don't want to go.
No, don't want to go. No.
I just think that it's cool that here's what I love about this: that a legend so old and all of these legends, the mermaids, Davy Jones' locker. I'm going to be doing ghost ships. Were told by sailors long time ago, and they still are talked about. They're still in movies. They're still in songs. We're talking about them today. I love that. I love that aspect of folklore, that it's passed on and changes a little bit, but we still have it today.
Yeah. It's folklore. There's a lot of folklore about the sea, isn't there?
Yeah. And Maya wants to say that that's Josh's favorite Sleeping with Siren songs too. Oh, well, I put that in there for you guys.
I have never heard of Sleeping with Sirens or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Oh, and Sleeping with Sirens the name is about sort of, Maya, am I correct about this? About women who sirens are mermaids. Yes, that's right. They are sirens. They, to this day, not to this day, but in the old days, whatever that is, like in the 20s and 30s, they called women who were maybe more not buttoned up. They would call them sirens. I kind of like it.
Okay.
All right, whatever. Whatever, fine.
You know, I don't know what it is.
Yes, like pin-up mermaids, Maya. That's right. What?
So something that sort of disturbs me a little bit about the sea.
Okay.
This is blasphemy, I'm going to say now. I always feel that it's a bit of a godless place.
Really? I think that, well, maybe that's because the thought of it is black and dark and cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that. I can see that, where parts of the sea don't even get sunlight.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
It must be a horrible way to die drowned in. It must be a horrible, horrible way to go.
Yeah.
That's a bit morbid, isn't it?
I think it would be terrible. Nope. I'm going to take a hard pass.
Yeah. It scares me, the sea. And not much scares me.
Right.
But it's just that thought, like what you were saying about swimming and not knowing what's below you. And I don't like my feet touching the bottom without anything on. I
Me
like
either.
To wear like rubber socks type thing, but my bare feet touching the bottom of the sea, even if it's sort of ankle deep or waist deep, I don't like it.
Oh, really?
No.
Even at that depth, you don't?
No, I don't like the thought of standing on something. Don't know.
Huh.
It only seems to be since I've got older. When I was younger, I didn't care. I don't know. Maybe
Huh.
it's me, my own mortality.
Yeah. Weird.
That's
Well,
the
see,
whole.
now it depends on where I am, I guess, because like when we were in Jamaica, the water is so clear that, or even in Hawaii, the water is so clear that it doesn't bother me to step on it at that. Although remember I told you I stepped on that sea urchin in
Yeah,
Jamaica. I was maybe I'll rethink that, but start wearing shoes. But farther out, and even in lakes where you can feel the seaweed touch your
yeah,
feet. Blech. I hate that. Is it
yeah.
seaweed? I don't know. Ugh. But I remember my mom would watch like really old timey films like um, the Monster from the Black Lagoon,
But yeah,
and there would be seaweed, and he would be in it, and he would look through it up at swimmers. And I think
yeah.
that yeah, mm, it's just nah, I don't like it, and I don't like the slimy bottoms of. I don't. Ugh, ugh. I'm with you, Rob. I got you. We're not gonna go visit Davy's locker anytime soon.
No, oh, definitely not.
All
Ugh.
right. Yes. And by the way, stepping on a sea urchin was very, 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 very painful. So zucchini. That
Pardon?
was somebody in the chat. So zucchini uh, said, "Ouch!" about stepping on a sea urchin, and yes, that was not one of my better moments. My husband, by the way, told me I'm going to throw him under the bus so hard right now. He told me if it had been a sea urchin, I would have been dead. But it was a sea urchin. I wasn't dead. I just wished I was.
You know,
Hi, Soph. Soph is Victor's friend. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Okay, Vic. Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing her. All right. What are you going to tell us about, Rob? What terrifying creature is
well,
below our feet?
there's just been a movie come out with Jason Statham,
Ooh,
and it's called The Meg.
right. Oh, yeah.
Megalodon. Megalodon. As one of the largest predators to ever have lived, the megalodon captures people's imagination, and for good reason. But with this apex predator, was this apex predator just a beefed up great white shark? And is it still lurking in the deep, dark depths of the ocean? Even though the Meg is believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago by science, over the years there have been sightings of the giant shark. There is a famous World War II picture of the two Navy destroyers. Um, I'll try and explain this picture as best I can. One is near to the camera, and one is further back from the camera. It's in black and white. It's not the greatest quality picture. And between the two ships, you can see the huge, and it must have been at least 10 foot, the dorsal fin of something, and then the tail fin, which was big as well. And so it's a dorsal fin and the tail fin of a shark. And it was between the two ships. Now, what they've done, using the scale of the ships, the size of the ships, and how far apart they are, they have been able to work out approximately the size of the shark, and it was 60 foot long.
Wow.
Now, the biggest thing we've got at the moment in our seas is a blue whale. There are not many blue whales left now. So he
Right.
was even bigger than a blue whale. So what was on the menu for our big cuddly friend with its large serrated teeth? Well, pretty much whatever he wanted, to be honest.
Right.
Dolphins to large humpback whales. Could it be out there? Could it be there? There was the other famous bit of footage of I think it's in China, a Chinese oil thing at the bottom of the sea, the bottom of the ocean, and there was a cage, and this cage was huge. It only looked small on the footage, and you actually see it's proper footage. You actually see the shark sort of go along where this cage is, and they worked out by the size of the cage that this shark was huge, but no one can actually um, say what kind of shark it was. Some people say it was a basking shark, which were quite big. Other people say, well, basking sharks aren't in that kind of area, so nobody actually knows. Um, so next time you're out swimming, JD,
Yeah.
something helps you remember this podcast
Yeah.
because you might not have any legs to come out with.
That's so funny.
Oh,
I gave Jeremy the picture of the World War II of the shark, if he has the ability to go ahead and put it up now or not.
did you find it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice one. I made up with that.
Are you there, Jeremy? Okay, Jeremy's gonna put up so you guys can see it.
Did I describe it right? I've not seen it for a while.
Yeah, you
I'm
did.
pretty, yeah.
I'll um I'll send it to you as well. Um so once everybody can see that, you can see what you're talking about. I think that there's plenty of room to still have ginormous sharks.
Well,
Like you said, we don't see so much of the sea, and why couldn't there be? And I saw that one with the shark by the cage too. And Rob, I just sent you the picture of the.
yeah, just over here.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's behind them, not yeah, it's
Yeah.
behind, not in front,
In
not between.
1942, I mean, what reason would they have to even try and pull a hoax?
Yeah, I apologize, guys. I've said the shark is between them. It's not. It's behind them, but it's still huge.
Yeah, that is
The the megalodon is something I do think is. I do think that, like you just said, there is a really good case for it still to be alive.
right. Well, every year on Shark Week now, recently, do you guys get Shark Week there?
Um, it used to. I'm not sure. Is it
The
on
Discovery
Netflix?
Channel. It's on the Discovery Channel, and every year, and I think it's July, we have Shark Week, and they are hunting for megalodon type sharks, and they think that they found proof that there are sharks bigger than the sharks that we know about and see.
Yeah. I remember watching something, um, and it was this play. They were filming. It was a an animal program. I can't remember what animal it was, but they were flying over this area of ocean. It was near the coast, and they just by chance filmed this huge fish or whatever it was, but it disappeared really quickly. But
Hmm.
because the water was really clear, and it was massive, but it disappeared it went too deep, and they only have a little tiny little bit of footage of it. But this thing was huge.
Huh.
Um,
I
see, that
know.
scares me.
Me
That,
too. I was just thinking the same thing. That scares me too.
I mean, this shark can bite you in half and not even know. It'd be like a toothpick.
Well, I've seen pictures of a woman standing in the jaws of a megalodon shark. Standing in the
Yeah,
jaws. Like there's plenty of room for you to not even bite you in half, just take you whole.
yeah. I mean, if it ate a human, it wouldn't even know it's had anything sweet.
I know. Have you seen the video of the surfer a professional surfer during a surfing competition? I want to say it was last year, but I can't say for sure. During a surfing competition, he's out there, the camera's on him, he's getting ready to do his surf,
Yeah.
and he gets attacked by a shark.
No, I haven't
Oh, you
seen that.
guys, look that video up. Um, there, like I said, it's televised. The camera's on him. He's getting ready to go, and just out of nowhere, this great white shark just pops up and attacks him. And he had to let the wave go, obviously. So him and the shark are behind a wave, so you can't see them for several seconds. You don't know what's happening. And then the wave dissipates, and the guy is just swimming as fast as he can, but he realizes that he's not going to outswim the shark. So he stops and stays there to watch for it, because during the part where we couldn't see behind the wave, he had punched the shark in the face as hard as he could punch it. And the shark was taken off guard, but it wasn't leaving. And so he decided that rather than be swimming and have the shark grab him by his feet, he would stay there and try and punch him again. But in the meantime, because it's a professional surfing competition, they have these ginormous jet ski things that go out there. One of his fellow surfers was out there at the same time and swam towards him to help him, which is a hero. And then they pull him on the jet skis and they go away. And he didn't get hurt or anything, but man, that's not even the darkest part of the sea. That's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
No.
Scary. Really, really scary.
Yeah. I don't
But
like it.
I mean, you made a good point earlier when we first started the podcast. We're not at the top of the food chain in the oceans.
That's
We're
right.
not even near. We're not even near the top.
Right. Yeah, not even close. Jay says that Jaws Fest every August in Martha's Vineyard. It's fun for all the surviving cast members from Jaws to hang out, and they play the movie outside on a massive screen. I would love that. That's fun.
Yeah.
But on the beach, not in the water. That really scares me. It scares me that JD goes diving in oceans and stuff. I don't, because you never know. When we were in when we were on vacation and we had gone on the submarine, the our next port, they also had the submarine thing, and the day we were in the submarine in Maya, tell me where we were. Maya, are you there? The Grand Caymans. So we were in the Grand Caymans, and the next day we were going to be in Mexico. Well, the submarine there, when they were down there, a great white shark swam right up to the submarine. And people were excited, but I wouldn't have been.
No.
No. No, thank you. It doesn't even care. It's coming up to a submarine. Mm-mm.
I think people aren't honest with themselves. You cannot comprehend swimming and coming across a great white, say a 20-foot great white shark.
Yeah.
You can't. it would be like you wouldn't be able to comprehend if a dinosaur turned up. And you stood
Yes.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
We're used to things being, we're used to being in control,
Yes.
but having a shark that big and having a shark as big as a megalodon, you cannot even comprehend
No.
that fear that you would have,
Yeah.
that absolute fear.
My husband has gone shark diving
Oh,
in a cage, and I think they might have made it so you can't do it in Hawaii anymore. I didn't go, obviously, but I well, I told you the story where I was bit by a tiny little shark in California.
yeah.
Yeah, and in my head it was Jaws, and I'm pretty sure I Scooby Dooed it across the top of the water. I'm pretty sure I have walked on water. I lost my entire bathing suit in the process, but I didn't really care. Uh, I just even that freaked me out. So I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And then that story they tell in Jaws about the shipwreck where everybody was eaten, and that was a true story.
Oh, yeah.
God,
Is
God,
it actual?
yes, yeah. Oh, so scary. Jay says we only know about 3% of the ocean, so why not a megalodon? Yep. You can all come to the Cape Cod, then a 25-minute ferry ride to the vineyard. Yeah, and then have a Jaws fest. I would love that. I would love that just to go anyway. I'll come see you, Jay. Yeah, the Indianapolis. That's a horrible story.
Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah.
Makes it more
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. And so for you guys who are listening and don't know, the ship wrecked, and there was something like what 250, 300 something people in the ocean. A
Yeah.
very, very small percentage of those people lived. The rest of them were eaten in a shark frenzy, a feeding frenzy. So the guy next to you would scream and bob down, and you never see him again, or parts of him would come up, and they would even float on dead bodies. And the people who did survive had the sharks brushing up against their legs and heard the screams all night. It was pitch black. That's something therapy's not going to take care of. Hundreds of
And
people being
nobody,
eaten by sharks in a feeding frenzy. That's something I don't even know.
no, nobody actually knew they were there, though,
What?
did they?
No,
Were they
nobody knew
on a
they were there.
secret mission? And
Yeah, I believe that's what it was. So nobody knew what their location was. So there was
ooh,
no hope. They felt like there was no hope for them, and that this was going to be their last. And for most of them, it was.
oh,
Let's see. We have plenty of room for all the ship was sunk by 2 torpedoes. 700 plus died. 700 plus men screaming.
oh.
Ugh.
You never get over that.
Never. That's why I said therapy's not even going to take care of that. All right, let's move on from that. I can't.
Okay.
Ghost ships.
Ooh.
Wah. A ghost ship is also known as a phantom ship and is a vessel with no living crew on board. It may be a ghostly vessel in folklore or fiction, such as the Flying Dutchman, or a real derelict found adrift with its crew missing or dead, like the Mary Celeste. The
Ooh.
term is, I know, I love this. The term is sometimes used for ships that have been decommissioned but not yet scrapped. No. As well as drifting boats that have been found after breaking loose of their ropes and becoming carried away by the wind or waves. Those don't count as ghost ships, my friend. They don't. So let's move on. So here we go. I have a list of folklore and ones that are thought to be true. And then I also have a list of ones that are historically accurate and have been written down and verified. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so let's just skip around a little bit. The ghost ships of Northumberland Strait is the apparition of a burning ship, which is regularly reported between Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick, Canada. I love that. A burning ship. And this is one of those things that they say is believed to be true because so many people see it. So there's actually quite a few in Canada. What's up with
Weird
you?
shit
What's
goes
up
on
in Victor? Victor, what's going on in Canada? The Flying Dutchman is said to be a ship commanded by a captain condemned to eternally sail the seas. It has long been the principal ghost ship legend among mariners, and has inspired several works. The Princess Augusta, misremembered in local folklore as the Palatine, was wrecked near Block Island, Rhode Island, in the United States in 1738, and has since then been an apparition known as the Palatine Light. And it too is reported every year by somebody. And that's been since the early 19th century. There was an American schooner, young teaser, and it was sunk in an explosion off of Nova Scotia, Canada, again, during the War of 1812, and another burning apparition known as the teaser light is reported every year. That is crazy. How about this one? The Eliza battleship was a paddle steamer that burned in 1858 on the Tombigbee River in Alabama. She is reported to reappear fully aflame on cold and windy winter nights to foretell of an impending disaster.
Spooky.
I know, I love this. Let's see. The Iron Mountain mysteriously disappeared in 1872 and left barges it was towing floating down the river. In reality, the ship ran aground and sank in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I've been there. And it is still seen.
You've not been sinking ships, have you?
I haven't. No. Not yet. But if you ever get a chance to go to Vicksburg, Mississippi, go to the McCraven House, which is haunted. It's a mansion. You can tour it. It is on land that not only was taken over by the Union soldiers and has hundreds of soldiers buried on it, but it was part of the Trail of Tears. So it has many, many, many Native Americans buried on the property, mostly women, infants, and children, because a woman would give birth and they would leave her and she would die. So the children would become sick. So this property is some of the most tragic property you'll ever stand on. And while we were there, the owner dug up a finger bone. It's the whole property. It's just completely, they have every kind of artifact you can think of from the Civil War through the Trail of Tears that they put on display in this house. Things to cook with. They had gotten down sawing off a limb. You could do it in 7 seconds. And so the limbs are out there too, and you can see the saw marks on them. A lot of children's skeletons. It's just, it feels it feels scary. And when we went outside and we were taking pictures, every single one of my pictures I took outside was so misted up. Like, it wasn't humid. It was a perfectly clear night, but there was a mist in front of every picture I took that I couldn't get a picture outside, a clear picture at all. So if you guys are ever in Vicksburg, Mississippi, go to the McCraven House. It's something you don't want to miss. Sorry, I'm going to go back to ghost ships now. Let's see. A ghostly galleon was reported in Chapel Cove, Newfoundland, according to Folklore, and it is the ghost of a Spanish treasure galleon that was blown off its course during a storm in the 17th century and hijacked by pirates. That was a bad day. The pirates buried the galleon's riches in Chapel Cove, and the legend states that whoever goes in search of the gold will be killed by the ghost of the pirates after seeing the phantom ship. Wow.
It's crazy.
What?
There are even true accounts today of ships being found. Some smaller ones, sailing ships with them. There's a famous one in there. I think it's Australia. The three guys set off, and they planned their route and everything. They weren't going like really, really far out. They were sailing from one point to the other, to one port to another port where they were going to meet up with the wives and everything. And they found the boat, or the little ship, not little ship, smallish yacht, and there was cups of tea there. There were. It looked nothing. There was nothing gone. It wasn't wrecked or anything. You know, there were like full cups of tea and everything, and they just, as though they'd vanished. It's just like, for one, they'd just gone, disappeared.
Wow.
No one can. Still to this day, they can't explain it.
Wow.
No one knows what happened to them. There's a few like that, especially around Australia and quite Canada. There's a lot of weird stuff goes on in Canada. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of ghost ships in Canada. And by the way, if you go to Vicksburg, Mississippi, they have a Union what's the gunner ship, and it was sunk by the first time that anybody has ever used explosives underwater. They rigged this up to shoot down this ship, and it sunk it, but they pulled it out. They restored it as best you can, and it is the only Civil War ship in the United States that you can go visit and walk through. And on the other side of the ship is 1,000. I think might be 3,000 unidentified Union soldiers' bodies, but they're all buried. Unidentified bodies, ranging from the ages of like 11, 12-year-old boys on up. And so you stand in this ship in Mississippi, and it was, like I said, sunk. And then you're standing in this Civil War battleground, because that's what this area was. It was a Civil War battleground. And you just think about the powerfulness of this, of what happened. You drive around this land, and you can see how there's like lots of steep ravines where they could hide. Soldiers on either side could hide and catch an entire, hundreds of men, and just pick them off like fish in a barrel. And it's overwhelming to be there and to see this and to know, here we are. Well, I think it was 2016, just driving through it, where this horrific battle took place, and to have these thousands of unnamed soldiers buried, and to be standing in the ship. And I started bawling it just felt so, it just felt so immense and heavy that I just started bawling. And this, right behind us was this whole group of people who were being taken on a tour. And I told my husband to please get me out of there, that they were going to think I was crying because we lost the war. And I was like, just get me out. It was just so immense. So if you go to Vicksburg, Mississippi, please stop at these places and look at this history, because it's something you'll never forget. You can't shake it when you're there. I love history, in case you couldn't tell. I love it. I love to be able to touch it, put my hands on it, and feel it. So I'm the person who goes to the Alamo and sticks my fingers in the bullet holes in the wall while everybody else is looking at uniforms. I'm just like, wow, this was meant to kill somebody. It's so moving. Sorry, did I go off in the weeds?
No, I'm just listening. Very interesting.
You can't say you don't learn something when you come here. In May of 1854, the HMS Resolute, which is a very famous ship, this barge-rigged ship of the British Royal Navy was abandoned after being beset by ice in Viscount Melville Sound, Canada. She had been one of 4 vessels from Edward Belcher's search expedition for John Franklin. I just watched a documentary about this on, I think it's Netflix, it might be Amazon. The ship drifted some 1,200 miles before it was found on September 10th, 1855, off the coast of Baffin Island, Canada, freed from the ice. That story is amazing. That they had to resort to cannibalism. They were found by Inuits who didn't really help them because they didn't really want them there. But it was written down in the Inuit culture. They have lore about these men coming in out of nowhere, having been on these boats, these ships, and it's the Inuits who documented that they had committed cannibalism. They would spy on them, wouldn't help them, and but documented everything about it. So they set out recently a ship to go do a documentary about this, and found another ship there and talked to a bunch of the natives, the Inuits, and they retold their history that had been passed down generation after generation after generation. And then they retold the history of how they had seen these men from the ship and what they had done and how they passed. So it's incredible. So again, history, sorry. The Marie Celeste. On November 25th in 1872, the Marie Celeste, after passing St. Maria Island in the Azores on the 25th of November in 1872, the last entry on the ship's slate, the Marie Celeste, a merchant brigantine, became derelict in unknown circumstances. No boats were found on board. She was found on December 4th, 1872, between mainland Portugal and the Azores archipelago. Azores, is that correct?
Yeah.
The ship was devoid of all of its crew, but largely intact and under sail, heading toward the Strait of Gibraltar. Arthur Conan Doyle's story, J. Habakkuk Jepson's statement, is based on this incident. Doyle alters certain aspects of the original story. But that, I love it when you come upon a ghost ship that's completely empty for no good reason. That's scary to me. There's no need to get off a perfectly good ship unless something more frightening than being in a dark ocean. Huh?
Or something comes and takes you.
Yes. Right. Yes. That's not good. On August 29th in 1884, the SF Resolven This merchant brig was found abandoned between, I hope I say this right, Bacalou Island and Catalina, Newfoundland, and Labrador. Her boats were missing. Her logbook was posted to within 6 hours of being sighted. Other than a broken yard, she had suffered minimal damage. The galley firelight was alight, and the lamps were still burning. A large iceberg was sighted nearby. It has been claimed that none of the 7 crew members or 4 passengers were accustomed to northern waters, and it was suggested that they panicked when the ship was damaged. Ice. They launched a lifeboat and swam. No bodies were ever found. 3 years later, the Resolven was wrecked while returning to Newfoundland from Nova Scotia with a load of lumber. I don't know why I wouldn't sail that boat again.
No.
Let's see. In 1897, there was an abandoned whaler called the Young Phoenix. It was reported to have been drifting in the Arctic, but they didn't know how long it had been drifting, and they didn't know where any of its members had gone. Let's see. On the 24th of November, 1931, the SS Bachimo was a cargo steamer, and it was abandoned after being trapped in an ice pack near Barrow, Alaska. Isn't Barrow, Alaska the highest part of the most northerly part of Alaska? Does anybody?
Think so.
I think so too. The cargo steamer was abandoned after being trapped in an ice pack, and they thought that it was going to sink, but it didn't, and she remained afloat and has been sighted various times between 1931 and 1969, just floating around. Nobody ever went and salvaged her or anything. In 1955, the MV Joida left Samoa. The refrigerated trading and fishing charter boat became derelict in unknown circumstances. The ship's dinghy and 3 Carly life rafts were missing. Her logbook was also missing. When she was found on November 10th, 1955, a subsequent inquiry found that the vessel was in a poor state of repair, but determined the fate of the passengers and crew to be inexplicable on the evidence submitted at the inquiry, so they don't know why they left. In 1959, they found an empty submarine in the Bay of Biscay off of northern Spain.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. In 1975, the SV Ocean Wave was lost at sea while attempting a single-handed west-east crossing of the Atlantic on a 13-foot-long pocket cruiser. The passage was part of an art performance called In Search of the Miraculous. Guess that didn't go as planned. The boat was found 10 months later, partially floating submerged 150 miles west-southwest of the coast of Ireland. The captain's body has never been found. Let's look at one in 2006. A tanker ship was found on the 24th of March in 2006, drifting 110 miles southwest of Weipa, Queensland, Australia. They could never determine the ship's owner, and the engines had been inoperable for some time. They didn't even know who owned the ship? Okay. Let's see. In 2009, the SV Lunatic. Never get on a boat called the Lunatic. I'm just saying. The Jure Sturk started the journey to sail around the world in his boat, the Lunatic. He used an amateur radio to communicate, and he was last heard from on January 1st, 2009. His boat was spotted on January 26th, 1,000 miles off the coast of Australia.
Maybe he'd gone mad.
Maybe. I think that's... Yeah, I think that's possible.
The Lunatic.
Right. In June of 2012, the TT Zion is a private yacht grounded on Fort Lauderdale Beach around 1:15 in the morning. Its navigation lights were on. All engines were on. The vessel appeared seaworthy, but there was no one found aboard. That's weird.
There's too many for it to be just a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so weird. There's lots of Japanese ships that go missing completely. Their crew completely gone. Lots of Japanese vessels.
Well, they have an area, don't they? Called the Devil's Triangle.
Right.
In the seas there. Like we have you have the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
There's another one called the Devil's Triangle, and it's not as well documented as the Bermuda Triangle. But in the Devil's Triangle, ships and planes go missing all the time.
Well, they think now that it's those big waves, those huge waves that come out of nowhere, and they're like 40 feet tall.
Yeah.
And that they just knock the boats around. But on the other hand, you're finding an empty boat that seems fine. So it doesn't seem like it was knocked around. Well, yeah. It's not damaged. And here you go. Here's my last one for ghost ships. You guys ready? Because this one's weird. February 25th, 2016. The Seyo. Manfred Fritz Bajorat of Germany was found dead in his private yacht, adrift in the Philippine Sea. You want to know how he was found?
Well,
his body was found slumped at his desk, and he was mummified.
Hey?
It had been reported that he had not been seen since 2009. And, yeah, he was mummified. They think that it might have been because of the salt water in the air. But a lot of people live by the sea, including you, Rob. Have you been mummified lately?
Not this week. I'm in for it next week.
You have to make an appointment?
Yeah. I'm getting mummified next week.
Okay. All right. Well, just let me know. The Arizona Memorial is a haunting one to see and feel. Yes, Jay. We actually went to the Arizona on Memorial Day. It's in Hawaii. For those of you who don't know, it's in Pearl Harbor. And there's still people in it. There's still bodies down there, and it's leaking oil into the water. And when you're there, it's hard to imagine, of course, the tragedy that happened there. And it wasn't the only ship that was sunk. There's other ones in the area, but it's they're going to stop letting people go onto the memorial pretty soon because I think it's becoming dangerous to be on it. Not on the ship, obviously, but on the memorial. The last ship sunk in World War II was a German U-boat off Block, Rhode Island, 130 feet down. You can dive it. And the story is pretty interesting behind the sinking. Photos of the crews remain online. See, that's the kind of stuff my husband loves to do. He would love to do that. I don't want to go scuba diving, but I would like that just for historical purposes. But the USS Arizona, if you guys ever get a chance to go to Pearl Harbor, make sure you go make that because it's very, very touching. And mummified. His remains were mummified while he was sitting at his desk.
Spooky.
What? That is weird, though, don't you think?
Very, very weird.
I'm not a fan.
No, I'm not a fan either.
Am I boring you, Rob?
No, not at all. Not at all. You have to bear in mind that it's 2:38 in the morning.
Oh, that's true. I can smell turkey cooking in my oven.
Ooh.
Whatever. So you want to tell us about why it's possible that the Loch Ness monster
No,
is in the sea? No, no,
I've got another one to do before that.
you do.
Yeah. Shall I
You
crack
pick.
on with it?
Should you what?
Should I do it?
No, what'd you say? What'd you say?
Should I crack on with it?
Oh, do you mean the Kraken?
No. I mean,
Whatever.
okay.
Oh God, Jay, what does Hillary Clinton and the ocean have in common? Do I want to know this? Go ahead, tell us this punchline. Rob, did you get the message I just sent you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. I'll do this. Just waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the punchline too. Um, mummified at his desk. Can you imagine boarding that boat? It's a yacht. It's a rich guy's boat. And you
Yeah.
find him just sitting at his desk, mummified, wide set and full of crabs. Oh, Jay. Jay! Okay, moving on.
Right. Okay, guys. We're really going to go down the paranormal rabbit hole now.
Okay.
Right. We've all heard of UFOs, but how many people have heard of USOs? For anyone that does not know and is living in my head, a USO stands for Unidentified Submerged Object.
Oh, wait a second. For those of us not living in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of us are. Okay.
For thousands of years, there have been reports of objects and bright shapes entering and exiting the oceans and seas, and even some of our large lakes and reservoirs. I myself have had an experience out walking and climbing early one morning and saw a strange object. But can you imagine one day finding out there are huge alien cities and civilizations deep in our vast untouched regions of our seas and oceans? Look how it would change our perspective on our own place in the universe, and how silly would we feel after spending centuries looking up when all the time we should be looking down and in our seas. I think this is really, really interesting, and I would love to find um, alien bases. There's a lot of talk now of, especially off the coast of America. Is it off the coast of California? There's an area there where there's a hot spot for UFOs coming and going in and out of the water, and there's a lot of supposed credible witnesses from the Navy who've um, seen strange lights in the sea, moving and following them along. Um, I have a friend. I've got a mate who was in the Navy. He's come out of the Navy now, and he um, he rang me and was talking, and he said that they were off the coast of Greenland. Excuse me, doing a NATO. Um, they were doing NATO exercises, and they saw a yellow, something yellow following them in the water. It was keeping pace with them, and then it would disappear, go way off into the distance, then come back, and it was just basically playing games. And a couple of them had their phones, and they took a couple of photographs, and they took a bit of footage of it. and they were made to keep it, to hand it over or delete it. They weren't allowed to. When the officers found out and the commanders found out, they were told not to talk about it, which I thought was quite weird. But I remember putting it up on my Facebook group. I think this was a long time before I started chatting with Tracy. Facebook took it down straight away, and every time I put it up, they take it down.
They would?
Yeah. I was friends with this guy called Lee Thatcher, and he used to do talks and things like that on paranormal, this, that, and the other. And he introduced me to this other guy who in the paranormal circles in the UK, he does a lot of talks. I put the stuff on the group sometimes. Can't think what his bloody name is now. But anyway, we were talking about this, and he wanted to use what this guy had seen in the footage. He wanted to do it in a talk, one of the talks he was going to do it in. And every time I put it up on Facebook, they took it down, and Twitter took it down. And me and this Lee fell out over it.
Why?
We had a big fall. I don't know. He was he was one of these people where everything was paranormal. Everything was a conspiracy. And it just got to the point that it was ridiculous.
Well, do you still have this picture?
I've got it somewhere I've got it on a SIM card because it was on my other phone, and I need to find the SIM card. And if I can find it, I'll show you this picture. Basically, it is. Where is that picture now? I can see the picture. It's like a yellow light. You can't see a craft or anything. It's a bright yellow light in the sea by the side of this ship.
I'll put it up.
Quite big as well. It's quite big as well.
And by the way, Jay says that they say off the coast of San Francisco is a hot spot.
So that's it. I couldn't remember if it was San Francisco or I said California, but
there's
something. There's a lot of places in America. Is Lake Michigan a real place?
Oh yeah.
Right, Lake Michigan.
It's as big as an ocean.
Yeah, they a lot of UFOs are seen coming in and out of the water there. It's a real UFO hotspot. The lake.
Jeremy used to live over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to talk to him about that. But I don't know what people's. I feel sometimes when we're doing a podcast and then, I like to sort of do all the UFO stuff and things like that, that people might think it's that I've lost my mind a little bit. But
hey, Rob, people like this channel because there's paranormal and stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
You're safe here, Rob.
Thank you.
I'll protect you. Not in the ocean, though. You're going to have to be on your own. But, from UFOs and stuff.
But that Lake Michigan, when I watched the program about it, it looks like the ocean. It's huge. It's crazy.
Jay says that David Pilates talks about Lake Michigan UFOs. So David Pilates is the guy who does the 411, the missing 411.
Yeah.
The national park stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of strange stuff around there. So he says, keep talking, Rob. There you go. See, Rob's got a fan group.
Yeah, what do you
I've seen a UFO. I've seen a UFO. So who sounds crazier, me or you?
Well, I've seen a UFO as well, so we're both crazy.
You have?
Where? Dove stones.
Oh, yes. That was the first story you ever did for me.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about.
Yes.
I'd seen something myself.
Yes.
When I was out walking with my dogs. That was what I was talking about.
Right.
Because I think it's any body of water that's quite deep, quite big. It doesn't necessarily have to be the sea or the ocean. But,
well, the abyss is about aliens living under the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of. That film. He says, "I've seen Martha Stewart." Was she? You weren't in prison though, were you, Jay?
What?
Martha Stewart. She went to prison. Do you know who Martha Stewart is?
Do I? No.
Yeah. Oh, she's super famous for being, like a decorator and baking, and she's got her own line of everything. She lives over by Jay. He lives over on the East Coast.
Why did she go to
everything
prison?
Good is? Huh?
Why did she go to prison?
Oh, tax. No, it was insider trading.
Inside trading?
Insider trading. It means somebody gave her a hint about stocks, so she sold them so she would make money, and she went to prison for it. But I bet she made the best goddamn shit on a shingle that they ever had.
You're very, very strange.
Anyway, he said that he saw her at a Slayer concert. She was hammered. I've been to a Slayer concert. I might have been hammered. Maybe it was me. Anyway, moving along. UFOs in the sea.
I believe that there's too much evidence. I believe that the government are covering it up. That's what I believe.
Well, haven't ships gone over and detected like something massive below them?
Yep.
Yeah, and up by the Antarctic and around Russia. I know that there's, we've talked about this too. There's huge, massive round spots up by Russia in the ground. And then they have these caves that look like they're carved that look like a UFO could just like land in it.
Yeah.
If I was an alien, if I was, coming from another planet, it would make sense to me to go, where's the least likely place they're going to find me? In the deep water, right?
Yeah.
See,
that's what I think.
I can see that would be a thing. I don't want to go there. The ocean's scary. So off San Francisco, they do what? They've seen UFOs go into the water?
Yeah.
And out?
Seen and out of the water, and lights, strange lights going in and out of the water.
You're kidding me.
They have. There's just a lot of UFO activity in and around, and a lot of the UFOs are going into the water, so then they change to being a USO. But I think they're just the same thing, really. Yeah, it's and Um, Lake Michigan as well is the same.
Right.
I think there's a line. They talked about like a ley line type thing between all these places in America where there's a lot of UFO activity. They are linked. There
Like
is
the
some kind of
49th degree or something like that, right?
something like that. Yeah,
You know, a lot of missing people are linked to that too. I
yeah.
think it's 49th, 49th
Parallel.
the parallel. Yeah, it's something like that. Um, and
Maybe someone.
Jay says why are all these world leaders visiting Antarctica in the past 3 years? Yeah, you know, Antarctica is a weird thing
Oh,
because, well, Rob has a theory about Antarctica, right, Rob?
yes, very much. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, it's a no-fly zone. They say it's a no-fly zone because FDA rules prohibit flying a certain amount of distance without there being an emergency airport within reach. So that's why they say you can't fly over Antarctica. But talk about being unexplored. Antarctica is someplace that's unexplored, and we just go okay.
It's the only place on the planet where all the nations of the world have signed a treaty
Mm-hmm.
that they are not allowed to look for gas, look for natural gas, for coal reserves. They're not basically you're not allowed to go there. And it's the only treaty on the planet that everyone has stuck to
Right.
and has never questioned.
Yeah.
Now, if that doesn't raise red flags, then I don't know what would.
Do you know that Antarctica was mapped out perfectly, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago by people who had no ability to map out Antarctica? They didn't have an airplane. They supposedly didn't have a way to fly, which is brings back to to the book in the Bible talking about the flying machines and stuff, and Enoch, the book of Enoch, and how it documented flying and stuff, which is the pyramids and how they have things show things that were flying. And there's maps that are perfectly mapping out Antarctica, which wasn't at the time wasn't frozen. It was more of a, I guess, like a humid sort of a place. And so it's really, it's got a lot of mystique and mystery around it involved with it.
Well, that sort of I mean, this is a whole different podcast, but I'll just quickly mention it. If you look at the flat Earth map, Antarctica goes all around the outside, basically. It goes all the way around the outside, and it's just basically a high, really, really, really high wall of ice. And then everything fits inside it, or the plant, the countries and everything fit inside it. So I'm not saying getting onto the flat Earth, but that is one of the ideas about Antarctica.
Yeah,
It
it is.
actually keeps the water basically in, and we're on a flat sort of plane. But people can't get up to the top of this wall of ice. It's too big to climb, supposedly.
Hmm.
But that I know,
Yeah, I've heard that theory.
yeah, a lot of people don't believe the flat Earth, and that's another podcast. But there's definitely something going on. Whatever you believe or don't believe, there is definitely something going on um, in Antarctica because there's stories of alien bases being there. There's stories, all sorts of that. There's another country there, another continent
Where was your friend's picture taken at?
near Greenland,
Mm.
just off the coast of Greenland, sort of between Greenland and Scotland.
Huh. Isn't it strange that it was taken off of Facebook and Twitter every single time?
Every time, every time. Even tried to. I even tried to put it. I even tried to put it up without the pictures and reword it, and it got took down.
Right. Huh. Well, now I have to see this. I have to put this on my channel. What are they going to do? Demonetize me?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'll do some digging and try and find it.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
I mean, they can't take it. They can't stop us doing a podcast, can they?
Right. That's right. Well, they can. If you mention, you guys, my brain is not working. I can't think of his name, and I don't want to. Jeremy, you say his name to me in my ear. He's the radio host guy and the podcast host guy, and huh? No, the guy who was taken off of Twitter. Yeah, don't type it in, you guys. His first name is Alex. If you mention his full name,
Yeah, I know you mean.
YouTube will yank your live stream off right then. So, they're listening.
So
We can talk about necrophilia, but don't talk about anybody with the name of Alex and the most popular common last name in the United States, or boom, you're out of here.
I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? When you think about it.
They're listening. Rob, help me. Yeah.
Well, I told you, didn't I? When I saw my UFO, did I tell you about them two guys that were looking for me?
No, I don't think so.
Right, I'll try and make this as quick as I can. I used to work for this company, and we had sale reps that used to go around and do what sale reps do. And one of them was this ex-military policeman. We used to call the military police monkeys. I don't know why they call them monkeys, but he was from
I'm sure
down
they
south.
appreciated that.
Yeah, he was from down south, and we didn't get on at all. But I didn't get on with anyone really, so that wasn't much of a. But anyway, that's another story. So anyway, I saw my UFO, and I didn't tell anyone for a while. Then I sort of told a few close friends what happened. But anyway, he stopped me one day. I was just getting into my wagon, and he said that he was in this place. I'm trying to be really careful how I describe this. He was in this place, and these two men came up to him and asked if he worked the same place I worked, and he said no. He told me he said no, and he said, "Why? What's going on?" They wouldn't say what was going on, but then he stopped me and told me, and he said, "I know we don't get on, blah blah blah, but you need to be careful because these guys are looking for you." And I was like, "Well, whatever. If they find me, they find me, don't they?" I was young and stupid, or younger and stupid. But yeah, and I think that's all to do with what I saw that day.
Interesting.
Sorry about it being really vague, but I don't want to start naming names and stuff because it's not really for me to do that because the people out here to defend themselves.
Wow. Well, when I saw my UFO, I didn't tell. Well, I told my brother. If you guys haven't heard the story, I'll run it through real quick. I was driving home from work. There were some lights over by where I lived. This is the real short version. And I turned down the street to go towards my apartment, and there was a deserted strip mall on one side of the street and my apartment building on the other side of the street. And there was a UFO hovering above the end of the strip mall, had rotating lights on it. I stopped my car and was looking. My windows were rolled down. It was in the summer, and it was nighttime. It was probably close to midnight or something. And I stopped my car and I was looking at it and thinking, holy crap, what am I looking at? And I heard a slightest sound. Just I don't know how to explain it. I've never heard anything like it. But I drove my car into my parking lot over the speed bumps as fast as I could, ran into my apartment. My brother was sleeping on my couch. On my way through my apartment, with my left arm, and I'm right-handed, picked my brother up, who's only 2 years younger than me, off the couch, dragged him outside, and said, look. And we stood there and watched this UFO move over the courtyard of my apartment complex. And it was dead silent out. Dead silent. There weren't crickets. There weren't dogs barking. It was nothing. And then this thing zipped off. And my brother said, we should call the police. We should call the Air Force, because we lived by an Air Force base. I seem to always live by Air Force bases. And I was like, hell no. Do you like being here? Because I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to get a car accident next week. So we didn't tell anybody. I mean, they're like a couple of close friends and stuff, but I never reported it. I never told anybody I worked with. Nothing. I was, it was crazy. And I'm not crazy, I don't think. And I wanted my brother to be a witness, because I was like, who am I going to tell that's going to believe this? And that's Uncle Mike, by the way. My Uncle Mike has to come into almost every podcast. And yeah, it was crazy. What did yours have a sound?
Not so much a sound, but it was like the air was really staticky.
Oh.
I don't know if that's a word, but there was a lot of electricity in the air, but there was no sound as such. But,
Yeah, mine it was no sound until it started to move, and then there was a very, very faint. You know how the fan in your computer or your laptop will start up a little bit?
Yeah.
Really faint like that.
See, there's so many reports of UFOs or being around or in or on water. Maybe it's something that they use. They use the water to. They found a way of using water as a fuel or something. I don't know.
Maybe. It's also salt water, which is disinfectant.
Yeah, maybe they're just washing their.
Well, I mean, like, if you see, when you see movies and they say that like aliens couldn't come here because of the organisms we have just on our skin alone, that we are used to, like even like staph and stuff is on our skin.
Yeah.
That they would die because they don't have a immunity to it. But if you're living in salt water, maybe that helps. I don't know. I'm just wondering. I got way off base. I tend to do that. I know.
Sorry, guys.
Somehow I managed to say necrophilia in a podcast about monsters from the deep. Well, I don't have any more monsters to tell you about.
I've got a quick one about the Loch Ness monster if you want me to do it.
Sure.
Okie dokie. This is really quick, guys. Everybody on the planet must have heard about the Loch Ness monster. But did you know there is a chain of thought that the Nessie family actually lives in the sea around Scotland and Greenland? Well, that's a bit ironic, isn't it? Loch
Yeah.
Ness flows into Loch Ness flows into the sea. In fact, most of the lochs do. Scientists and skeptics have always said there's not enough food in the loch to sustain a family of Nessies. But
And for those of us who don't know, you want to tell everybody what the word loch means?
loch just means lake in
Yeah.
Scottish.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, say a creature came back to Loch Ness to spawn and to have their young and then swim back to the sea. We already have that in nature. Like salmon always will go back to where they were born to spawn. So it's not something that is unheard of in nature. So it solves two of the problems that science says, and science and skeptics say when they talk about Loch Ness. The food issue, well, that wouldn't be a problem because they're going to be in the sea, and it would also answer the problem of why people say that they don't see Loch Ness for months and months and months at a time. Maybe they don't see Loch Ness at Loch Ness because it's not there, because it's out at sea.
Right.
Um, Science also says that the sea around there would be too cold because when they believe that the Loch Ness monster is a plesio, I can't ever say this, a plesiosaur or something along them lines. The water's too cold, but we're talking something that's been alive from prehistoric times, so it could have changed. Evolution could have changed it to be able to live in the cold waters of the around Scotland and that area. And that is my quick little epilogue of the Loch Ness monster.
Well, what do you think? Ta-da! What do you think?
Well, I would love there to be a Loch Ness monster, and I've watched lots of stuff about it. I've seen a lot of pictures, and some of them look really, really good, and they don't look like they've been faked. I think that something could be living in Loch Ness, or could be spending time in Loch Ness, but actually living in the sea. And it just goes back to when we started tonight. There's more stuff in the sea that we don't understand, and we don't know. So that is my. I think that maybe we need to look more towards the seas and actually find out what's living in it. We're never going to find out everything that's living in it, but
right.
Well, but I'd love there to be a Loch Ness monster. Like you've got that one in America, haven't you? That like is it Lake Champlain or Champ or what it's called?
It's not as famous as Loch Ness, but
yeah, but there's been some really good.
I would like there to be a kraken.
Yeah.
And a chupacabra.
It'd be nice for there to be a kraken, but just keep it at arm's length.
Well, yeah, I don't want to run into it. All right, do you guys have any questions? Anybody taking a question? Anybody got one? And while we're doing that, this Friday, Jory and I will be doing a podcast. I'm not sure what it's going to be on yet, though, but I have an idea. But I'm going to save it. I'll make it a surprise. Could have something to do with David Paulides, though. I'm just saying. If you are interested in Jeremy and his talent and need a graphic design or somebody to work on your live stream or podcast, please contact me and I will set you up with Jeremy and he will give you a price list and he will also give you a way to contact him. And if you feel that tug at the bottom of your heart, and you'd like to support this channel, please go ahead and check out my Patreon and my Teespring. And if you are listening to this and it's not during the podcast, if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would appreciate that very much. And if you are not already and you'd like to be, please subscribe. And go ahead and click that bell too, because it will notify you when I have new content go live and when we have a podcast go live. So go ahead, it's free. You get paid in love around here. Mad Meerkat says, thanks for the podcast. Yes, Steve, I would like to see that story. All right, you guys. Steve, go ahead and go to bed. Thank you for coming. And if that's all, do you have anything you'd like to say, Rob?
No, that's everything. Everything. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I hope you've enjoyed it too.
All over the show. I hope you've had a nice time listening.
Yeah, we were a little bit of everywhere, and I did a little bit of history teaching last week. I did a little bit of a sermon. You never know what you're going to get for free. You never know. At least it didn't go anywhere too weird. Yet. We should have an after show where we talk about everything really weird.
An after show party.
Yeah, an after show party. Yes. Well, thank you, Moderator Maya, for being an excellent moderator. And thank you,
Maya.
Jeremy, for being an excellent producer. And thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. And I've been taking a little break from the channel, but I will start putting content up. And I will see you later. Good night, Rob.
Good night, Tracy.
Bye.
Bye.